Hello everyone, Michaela here, your joy coach at Joy Inc. Today is a very special day. It is a new thing for me. It is a new thing to put myself out there in this way. But guess what? I'm not going to do it alone. Because in my world, things are so much better when we do it together. And I have found for you a really dynamic human being that I know, love, and trust. And I can't wait for you to meet her. We are going to have a great conversation about things that really matter to who we are as individuals, who we are as a collective whole, and how we work together. So give me a second to figure out how to invite her in, and we'll get started. Let's see how we did. Okay. Oh,
Hi.
here she is, Caroline. Hello,
How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
I appreciate you joining me today. Thanks for taking your time and your story and being willing to bring it here. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about Caroline Murray because she is a dynamite human being. But we're going to talk about all the things, right? All the things that have helped get you here. Maybe not all the things in 30 minutes, but a lot of them, right? So tell us real quick, first off, how you are on this beautiful day. 1 word, 2 words, and then we'll kick into some questions.
Okay. I'm feeling good today. Had a great night's sleep, so feeling refreshed. So
Excellent.
I'd say refreshed, and I'm a little nervous, to be honest. It's kind of, I talk all day long to everyone, but it's just kind of nerve-wracking to be in like such a spotlight situation. So
it is interesting, and I thank you so much for bringing that up and being honest. In the work I do as a coach, one of the core foundations is vulnerability. So I would be remiss if I didn't tell you I was also a little nervous.
Right.
And so we take these 2 really powerful women with strong stories to tell, and we look at them being nervous, and we go, well, that's normal, but why, right? And it's the reason I want to do these little mini podcast type things, these little episodes, is because there's so much space out there and we're afraid to take it up. Absolutely. There is enough. There is no scarcity of space for us. And I'm very proud that you and I have chosen to step into a space and say, we belong here. We can do big things in this space and other people can benefit on the way. So thank you. I'm also a little nervous, but I want to tell us both. There's a fine line between nervous and excitement, and I think we're standing on it. And we're going to shift it over to the excitement piece, and get things going. So, Caroline Murray, I have to give full disclosure for anyone out there who's listening. We are related. She is my cousin. Blessedly, she joined our family and married my cousin, and it's just made our family so much bigger and brighter. But Caroline and I have also really, from the moment we met, had a really strong connection. And I'm proud to say that you're also a friend. Another disclosure, we've also decided to work together a little bit. So Caroline and I partner as accountability partners. We've just kicked this off, and I can tell you, man, if you don't have one and you're aspiring to great goals and you don't have a life coach for this particular purpose, find an accountability partner.
Yes, it's been so helpful. And I just have such a clear memory of us meeting for the first time. We were in Italy for a family wedding. And I went over to your hotel room and asked you to borrow a hairdryer. And you were just like, you're sweet Caroline, and my cousin is sweet baby James. And it's so sweet. And you started like tearing up. And I was just like, I love this girl. We are soul sisters.
Soul sisters all the way.
Soul sisters, all the emotions.
And here we are doing all these big things.
I know. I'm proud of us. We've come so far.
Yes. So tell us about your big thing.
Yeah. So my big thing lately is I started my own business. Kind of a random thing, definitely like a plot twist, I'd say, in my life. I was a teacher for 7 years. I taught 2nd grade for 6 years. I got my master's degree in literacy. And so my last year teaching, I was a reading specialist. Loved kids, loved teaching. It was always what I wanted to do growing up. And I just kind of got this idea from seeing on the internet of people being a virtual assistant. And the reason it spiked my interest at first was because it's kind of a flexible job. You make your own hours, you work from home. And I was like, oh, I want to have kids one day. I teaching is hard. It would be hard with a family, and
especially through
that
COVID. Let's not
exactly
forget that X factor here.
Yes, exactly. And so I was like, maybe one day when I have a family, I'll look into that. And long story short, I got the opportunity to start it, and I just kind of jumped right in January of last year. So I was doing it on the side as I was teaching, and as time went on, I was becoming a lot more unhappy in the teaching profession, and I decided to just jump into this full time and quit teaching. So here we are.
Wow. Have you found parallels between the work that you did as a teacher, the kind of intention, the organization, the service, as parallel to what you're doing today with your clients?
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of similar things. And, the biggest thing that I'd say is similar that captures my heart is helping people. So I want to help people. I want to serve people. And, I try to help business owners who are overwhelmed. I helped kids in my classroom who were overwhelmed and anxious and couldn't read. So, it's definitely a different type of help. But that's been really fun. And of course, the organization elements and all of that. But really what it comes down to is human connection and, trying to really make that connection with someone and see where they need help and how I can be of service. So
what do you find with your clients? Because I'm assuming that your clients are small business owners, solopreneurs that are busy during the day and, get overwhelmed and still trying to manage a night. What is their biggest need that you see with your clients?
Yeah. So my biggest, my clientele really are relatively small human. Sorry, I saw Kayla. Hi, Kayla.
Oh, hi, Kayla.
I see your comment. I saw the word human.
Kayla says human connection is what Caroline is best at, and I agree 100%.
That
Thanks
word
for joining,
got me
Kayla.
tripped up. What was I going to say? Kayla, you got me all tripped up, girl. So small business owners who, their business is big enough where they need help. They're overwhelmed, but it's not quite big enough where they can afford to hire an entire team of people. So, like you said, solopreneurs, people who are on their own, they're overwhelmed. My ideal client is someone that doesn't answer my emails because they're too busy all day doing their job and they don't have time to answer emails. And so I try to come in and I answer the emails for them. I organize their emails. I get rid of all the junk. I manage their social medias because another target audience that I've come to find is, a little bit of the older generation where, social media is so important for business owners today. But some people are just so uncomfortable with that. And I'm certainly not, I'll be transparent. I'm not a social media expert. Like I don't have a marketing degree, but I know how to operate, Facebook and Instagram. And some people are just scared of it and they feel cringy talking about themselves on social media. So I'll brag on about them. Yes, absolutely. And I can relate to it as well, which I know we talked about. So yeah, to circle back to your question, just looking for those business owners who are overwhelmed and need assistance.
That's fantastic. Do you find that you're getting the flexibility that you were looking for?
Yes, it's been life-changing, honestly.
Good.
Yeah, being able to, sleep a little bit later and kind of have my mornings and my routine and being able to travel and still help my clients from where I travel, but I can still go see friends and family. And I'm loving the flexibility. It's completely different than a teaching schedule for sure.
Right. And not different, less work, but just different under more control. And I think that that's what so many of us want, is to have a say over how our life transpires. And unfortunately for the majority of us, we end up thinking we're supposed to be something that's not true to us. That's not our authentic purpose and passion. And it sounds like you took a lot of steps to get to closer to the understanding. How did you know in January that the scale had tipped, that it was time to really follow what was inside you and your passion, even though you had a job that you loved and was fulfilling?
Yeah, it was a long time coming, to be honest. Kind of what you mentioned with COVID is really was the downfall for me personally, and where I kind of started to fall out of love with the teaching profession. And then,
which is really sad to say, because you're not alone, and
I know
the things we do to our teachers. So excuse me.
I know. So I mean, heartbreaking for so many people in different professions. It definitely hit the teacher profession pretty hard. And then I was going through some personal things as well. Really have
Is that
struggled with
something you want to talk about, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I've struggled with some mental health issues, just pretty basic. It started as like basic anxiety and depression once I graduated college. And as the years went by, it just got worse and worse.
Right.
And, you know, therapy and doctor's appointments and just keep going back and prescribing more meds. And it just, I kind of got to a point where I felt like I was crumbling. It was like, I can't keep it together. Right. And it's hard to show up at a job every day and serve other people when you can't serve yourself and you feel like garbage.
Right. And not just your job, showing up for your life and for your joys and the things that your social engagements and for your husband, you know.
Exactly.
And it's a lot to carry. Not knowing, gosh, and what's wrong with you is not the right phrasing, of course, but what feels out of alignment, what feels so wrong, right?
Yes,
and right and wrong is not a land we should play in because it's too limiting. But so, okay, so you're starting to see these things, you're taking the meds, life is moving on. What happens next? How do you move beyond
I just
that?
want to comment, you're totally right about just in your head, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I've got this great job. I've got this great husband. I've got friends, family, all these things. And so, yeah, it was definitely that thought process. And, you know, I'll say I'm a pretty reflective person, and James, my husband, is great. My friends are great. My family, you know, everyone's
all that.
Yes, they're the best. And so I was able to kind of talk these things out loud. And one of the biggest things I was struggling with were like these mood changes. It was like one week I was great, and then the next week I didn't want to get out of bed. And I remember James was the first person to put this word out there. He was like, I wonder if you're bipolar. I was like,
right. And I'm sure you were just like,
thought.
Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, no, and exactly. I honestly like received it so well. I think he was super nervous to approach that with me and throw that out there. But I was like, bipolar, that sounds legit. And so I
think it's important to note that means that you guys have a trusting relationship where you can be open and honest, and that you're sharing what is important and what brings you fear. Because without that's a huge conversation to have. Like, hey, person I love, I love you just the way you are, but I think you might have bipolar. And that's not something that we can do easily, right? Like I can't just send an email to a friend saying, by the way, I think you have bipolar, right? So it's important to have, oh gosh, I keep kicking my stand. It's important to have those relationships based on trust, where the agreement is, I want what's best for you. So kudos to James. Very proud of my
James. We
sweet
love
baby
him.
James cousin.
Yes.
But I really want to honor you in that experience too, because man, someone comes to me with something like that, my humanity says, whoa, that's not okay. You can't say that about me. But your willingness to hear that says so much about not only who you are as a curious individual, but where you were on your journey and the desire to move beyond the unknown and the medications and the sleepless nights and the things that were making life sad.
Thank you.
So good
it
for
was,
you.
And it was just kind of to the point. I was like, I don't care what it's freaking called. Like, I just want to get better, and I want to be Caroline again. So call it what you want, you know? And so, yeah, so then I went to a psychiatrist, got diagnosed, and got on the right medication, a lot of work through therapy, a lot of support from a lot of people. But, you know, I think through that time, you have to do a lot of self-reflection and, like I said, a lot of therapy and kind of reevaluate where you're at. And one of the hardest parts was thinking, like, I always thought I'd be a teacher. I've always been a teacher. And it's like Caroline, teacher, as if that's like part of my identity. And having to learn that I'm Caroline, there are many other pieces to me that define who I am. Not my job shouldn't define who I am. That's what I do, but it's not who I am. And kind of learning about that and kind of coming to terms with, it's okay if I'm not a teacher anymore. I can still help people. I can still be me. And like you said, take up space, which is something I'm still working on. And you've done such a good job of coaching me through that too.
Hey man, we got to go through this stuff together. And I think, you know, so I can sympathize. I also was a teacher for 7 years in the public school system. And we've talked about this a little bit, but one of the things that I've come to have to understand is who gets to define the word teacher, right? If we're talking about someone who chooses a job as an educator in a public institution or otherwise, then that's one form of teacher. And maybe I came to this because I want to justify myself, but I struggled with the guilt of leaving my profession. Even now, as I look at the teacher shortage across our country, my insides say, you should get your license renewed, get back in the classroom and change the world.
They need you.
Right? And
Exactly.
I'm like, well, they're not wrong. But at the same time, I get to choose how I use my gifts, right? Yes. And one of the things I really want to drive forward in these conversations on Instagram Live is, how do we drive change forward for ourselves? How do we grow within ourselves and evolve? Because if I think that I'm not a teacher anymore, then I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing, because what I want to do with my life is help others grow. I want to help others change. I want to give them good information, resources, and tools to go forward and change their personal worlds. That was always my philosophy of education. Yes. And now I get to do that in my coaching practice, right? So we wanted to talk about the feeling of guilt of leaving a like a service type profession in that way. Yes. Because I should want to help America's children. I should. And quite frankly, I do, but I don't have to do that in a classroom with that horrible fluorescent lighting that gives me a headache.
Yeah. Horrible. I got a headache every day. Totally.
You know what I mean? So it's, so one of the questions I asked you a couple of weeks ago when we were having a chat, you know, when you were talking about leaving, and we had already talked about the bipolar and how big of a role that had in your past life, your current life, and how you wanted to move forward. Yet, and I'm going to call you out on this, and I told you I would, but when we talked about it, I said, how did it go leaving? Did you tell them about the business, or what was it? And you said, no, I told them I was leaving for mental health reasons. And my question was, do you remember my question?
Yes. Why was it easier for you to tell them that than it was to tell them about your business?
So interesting.
It is. It's
tell us what you've thought about in the last 2 weeks about that question.
So there's a couple things. I'll start with kind of like the guilt element with what you were talking about. And, you know, that stems back to like my own personal feelings and how I felt like I had to be a teacher. But it's also kind of a profession where it's like, well, you do this for the kids, so you don't need to get paid well. You're here for the kids. You're not here for money.
That pat on the back is really valuable. It is really valuable, trust me, but it doesn't pay the bills.
It doesn't. And it's like, you know, we deserve to be treated with respect and like professionals, and we can be treated that way and also be doing it for children. It's not a volunteer position, it's a career. But anyways,
it's not indentured servitude.
Yes, exactly. And so, so, you know, the guilt was definitely one piece of it. And then, I don't know, so then the other piece of it was, you know, I kind of kept my mental health really private from most people at work. Most people didn't know about it. A couple people did. Some didn't know the severity of it. And so part of it was I wanted people to know, like, hey, this is kind of like a big secret thing that's been going on, and you guys need to be aware that this is happening to people around you, and some people aren't okay. So I also wanted
What a teacher. Look at you. That's teaching.
Yes, I wanted to educate, you know, and then I think I felt almost like a combination of like shame and a little, you know, like, I guess embarrassment, shame kind of go hand in hand of like, oh, you think you can start your own business and do that instead of teaching? Like, you think you can like pull this off? And why wouldn't you want to be there for kids? Like, why wouldn't you want to be a teacher anymore? And just that guilt that goes with all of that. It was too much, and I didn't feel like explaining myself. And that was something I had to learn, is like, I don't need to explain myself to anyone, first of all. I don't even have to give a reason to quit. I can just quit. But, you know, I definitely explained to a lot of people, like, and it was true. I needed to be in a new environment where really the easiest way I could explain it is where like I can control the environment and not the environment controls me. And that's been so amazing for my mental health. But also being able to have a business out of it is such a blessing.
Good for you. And I think it's also important to note that, you know, fast forward 6 months later, now it's like, oh my gosh, I have to announce to the world that I'm going into business by myself, that I feel strong and capable enough to do that. I know how I went through that, and I went like
nice and slow
and very safely, because it's so weird to walk out into the world and say, hey, guess what, world? I've got a gift I'm going to
Exactly.
share it, and
Right.
it's worth it to you.
Right.
When we know it's true, and Caroline, I could tell the world about you, right? But it gets funny when we talk about it for ourselves. How
Yes.
has that gone for you, right? Because you announced to the public, right? Your
Yes.
social
Yes.
media public, about your new endeavor. How has that gone for you?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I'll just tell this whole Instagram live community that I asked you for a lot of help, because that same shame and guilt and embarrassment about announcing
Right.
to people what I was doing was scary for me. And I wanted to announce it because I want people to know. And I also need people to know because I need clients and I need word of mouth and I need people to know what's going
Right.
on.
Right.
But I was scared. And it's like you said, like I can share your social media posts all day. I
Right.
can talk about how great Michaela is with my Joy Coach, but, or with Joy Inc., but it's so much harder to do that for yourself. And I consider myself a humble person, so it's kind of hard to talk about myself. So it was really scary, but, everyone's been so supportive and people are proud of me. And if they're not, then I don't need you in my life.
Who cares?
So,
Right. And that's, the naysayers, it's like, and I'm thinking about the concerns talking to your other colleagues about leaving education. And I always have to say, why are you like meh against this? Did you ever try anything? Did you ever put yourself out there? And typically the answer is no. And it's often that it's filled with regret, right? So there has to be something within us that says, you know what, if people don't like this, that's on them and things that they're dealing with. Maybe they need a good coach. Just saying.
Just
but
saying. They need Michaela.
maybe they need their inbox organized.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you just said that, you don't like to talk about yourself and you feel very humble. But when we first broached the conversation of you hopping on one of these with me, you said, I'd like to talk about Virtually Possible, your business, but I'd really also like to talk about mental health. It sounds like there's a greater confidence, or I don't know, it's a step outside of you almost. And it's giving you a little more confidence to speak openly about that, because not many people want to tell the world that they have a thing.
Right.
How do you find that courage?
Yeah, I mean, it's just something I feel really passionate about, to be honest. It's a topic that's impacted my own life and it's impacted friends and family. And I just find it to be so important. And I hate all this stigma stuff. And it bothers me. I hate that people are struggling behind closed doors when I think that we should just talk about it and help each other. So I'd like to think if I can help one person be like, it isn't normal to not be able to get out of bed every day, or, maybe I could use help from a therapist or a doctor or a life coach, that makes it worth it for me. And, I'm so passionate about it. And I just want people to know, like, the greatest investment is in yourself. And so if you can't take care of you, you can't be good at your job. You can't be a good wife. You can't be a good mother. Like, you have to take care of yourself. And that's so important. And I think our society and different things kind of make us think that's not important and that's being selfish. And I just want people to know that it's not, and that it's so important.
And I appreciate that, because I agree. I've been thinking a lot about, how we stigmatize people with diagnoses of any kind, whether it's addiction or mental health. And I don't know why we don't roll out the banners and get out the pom-poms and say, wow, way to go. Like, congratulations, because now you can move forward knowing what's been blocking and holding you back. And, addiction, congratulations. Like, you've identified something about yourself that most Americans aren't willing to even look at. Yet we put them in a corner and say, ooh, that's the shame corner. When they're being the most honest.
Exactly. And we should celebrate them. Like you said, like, you're being honest 100%. And reflective, and you want to better yourself so that everyone around you isn't negatively impacted by your issues. I think it's brave. I think it's amazing. Like, I'd rather me take care of it than ruin everyone around me's lives.
If you had to go back 6 months and give yourself some advice to get here, right, to this point in your business, what might you say? Like, in reflection, right? Like, would you introduce a mantra? Would it be, I don't know if anything.
Yeah.
Not that anything has to change.
No, that's really good. I had a mantra for myself when I trained for a half marathon a couple years ago, and I think it's really just fitting, is if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you.
I
And
love
so if you want to change, you're likely going to have to be challenged, and you got to come to terms with that. And a challenge, you know, it's hard when you're going through it, but it's going to be worth it, and just to keep going. And, you know, I think the hard times have made me stronger, and they've taught me a lot, and I'd like to think that they've helped some other people. So that makes it worth it for me.
Absolutely. And how do you keep the energy, right? We talked about like self-care and kind of the filling your own bucket before you pour into others. Other than getting the right doctors, getting the right medication and the right therapy in that way, in your day-to-day, how do you care for yourself? And not just like spa treatments, because those are wonderful, but that's not exactly sustainable self-care.
Right. Yeah. So some of the, you know, the basic stuff, you know, I exercise, I do my daily devotionals. Pretty spiritual person. So having that quiet time with God for me personally is really helpful. Awesome. But just a lot of things that I've learned from therapy and letting myself feel is really the biggest thing. Like, one of the things I struggled with so much is getting mad at myself. Like, well, why are you upset? Why are you angry? You shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't be this. And it's like, actually, it would be unhealthy. Yeah, exactly. It would be unhealthy if you didn't have those emotions. We're humans. We're built to have emotions.
100%.
And it's unhealthy to repress them. So that is something where I just let myself feel, and that just may look different on different days. It may be me calling a friend and venting to them. It might be me taking a 30-minute nap. You know, it just could be different, but really just allowing, like you said, allowing myself to take up space and feel.
Because you deserve it.
Thank you.
You deserve that space.
We all do.
Thank you. We all do. That's the beautiful thing. There's plenty of it. There's plenty of it. So we have just a few minutes left, and I want to make sure, you know, what one thing would you ask of our listeners today, whether it be a call to action, if it's, you know, seeking mental health, or I don't want to put ideas in your head, but what do you want to say to our audience today? What's the one thing you want them to leave thinking about, looking into, or just feeling content with?
Right. I said it earlier, I would say it again, is invest in yourself. So whatever that may look like, take care of yourself, whether it's your mental health or, you know, it could just be a variety of things, whether you need a life coach or a virtual assistant to help your business, or whether you need a day of the week where you just go get dinner with a friend. You know, do what you need to do to feel good in your own skin. And in turn, your relationship with the people around you will be so much stronger.
Absolutely. I mean, I firmly believe there's no one-way liberation, right? And
exactly.
I've heard that said before, and it's so true, because as I grow, so do you, right? When I become stronger, a stronger, healthier version of myself, it'll challenge my relationships. It'll say, does this work anymore? Does this not work anymore? But it also gives them room and space to grow with you. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want growth. I don't want to be the same person I was a year ago. If I am, we got problems.
Exactly.
You know?
I completely agree. Yes, we should be constantly learning, growing, changing. Absolutely.
I love it. So if people, those listening, this is the important part for you. She's going to tell you how to follow her, how to find her, how to get in touch with her. If you or someone you know is running a business and feeling overwhelmed, because self-care means that I'm going to take care of the things I need to take care of so that I can do the things that bring me joy. So if it's building Legos with your kids and you don't have time because you're building spreadsheets all day.
Yes.
That self-care is saying, this part of my life is replaceable. My kid is not. Right.
Exactly.
So how do we, if we want more Caroline, either Caroline to talk to or learn from through the world of growth through mental illness or mental struggles, however you want to classify, how do we find you?
Yes. So if you're interested in having or hiring a virtual assistant, you can check out my website. My business name is Virtually Possible. So the website is V as in virtually, vpossible.com.
Awesome.
You can
Which
also
is so cute, by the way. I just think it's adorable.
Thank you. It was the first idea I thought of for a business name, and we just stuck with it. So
I love it. I love it.
Yes. You can check out my Instagram, which is obviously linked here. Feel free to send me a message if whether it's for a virtual assistant or if anyone wants to talk about mental health, free of charge. I am here to discuss that. So yes, awesome. Reach out to me, please.
Awesome. Because it isn't so important. And the life coach in me just has to hit home a few things. And that's, you don't have to do these things alone, whether it's tolerating the struggles in your business and your personal life. I mean, there are people to help you across all arenas. And like Caroline said, you do have to invest in yourself. And it's not always just a financial resource investment. Sometimes it's just clearing the space, taking the time and saying, yes, I could do these 5 things, but I also need some sleep tonight because tomorrow me deserves a shot.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yes.
So whether it's a life coach or a virtual assistant or an accountability partner or a friend that you walk with or a diary that you keep, there has to be some space to share out. For me, I do that through the form of life coaching. I work with individuals and groups and say, what are you tolerating? What's important to you? How do we bring those two together so that you can move through life more smoothly? Life is not without chaos and turmoil and frustrations, but we can ebb and flow with them when we have our priorities right and the support we need. So I
absolutely
love you to the ends of the earth.
I love you.
I am so proud of you. I am grateful
Thank you.
that you've taken the chance to show up and bring your gifts to life and do so in a meaningful way to grow your life and family, because that matters a whole great deal.
Thank you. You are amazing. And I love this series that you're kicking off. Everyone make sure you tune in. It should be most Thursdays, right? At noon.
Thursdays at noon. We're just going to have great people with stories that align with you, me, Tom, Joe, you know, Sarah and Jane, all the people, right? All the people, because we are connected humanity. And like we discussed even before our call, we have to talk about the fact that we're nervous. We cannot pretend that we just show up capable of doing everything. We work for this, right? Like and we're worth it. Because we were given a God-given gem, and that's our purpose, and
we should share it. I love it.
So so Thursdays at noon, come on back by, tell your friends, but please like Caroline's Instagram, check out her website, and think about who in your life would benefit from having some support in the office. Otherwise, make it a great day, folks. Thanks for joining. Caroline, I love you.
I love you, Michaela. Thanks for having me. Bye,
goodbye, everybody.
Thanks for coming.
Take care. Bye. Now, how do I stop it?
I have no idea.